McDonald's, Starbucks, Domino's, just a few of the companies that have seen their sales nosedive as
The coffee giant has a big problem. In their language, a grande problem.
How effective are these boycotts?
The company has lost around $11 billion. That's 10% of their value.
Did you know that due to the boycott of Israeli products and brands, McDonald's, one of the biggest fast food franchises in the world, reported its first quarterly sales miss in nearly 4 years? The burger giant is among several Western brands that have seen protests and boycott campaigns against them over their pro-Israeli stance in the Israel-Hamas conflict. The CEO, Chris Kempczinski, reported a meaningful business impact in McDonald's Middle East market and some areas outside the region due to the war, as well as associated misinformation about the brand. Regardless of what Chris or the general public thinks, it seems like the boycott of Israeli products has indeed caused a rift in the global business landscape. So, the question is, how big of an impact has this boycott left on pro-Israeli brands? Is it significant enough to actually make a difference? Stick around to the end of the video to get the full scoop. In recent years, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has not only stirred political tensions but has also sparked widespread debates and actions globally. One such manifestation is the movement to boycott Israeli products and brands, which is a form of economic activism aimed at influencing policies and drawing attention to the ongoing conflict. The impact of this boycott extends beyond the realm of politics, affecting businesses, consumers, and the economy at large. But to truly understand the impact of this boycott, we will have to first take a closer look at BDS and how the movement works. How the BDS movement works. When talking about activism surrounding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, one movement has garnered significant attention: BDS, which stands for Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions. BDS represents a grassroots effort aimed at exerting economic and political pressure on Israel to address what its supporters view as injustices against the Palestinian people. The BDS movement started back in 2005 when Palestinian civil society organizations issued a call for a campaign of boycotts, divestment, and sanctions against Israel until it complies with international law and respects Palestinian rights. Inspired by similar tactics used in the struggle against apartheid in South Africa, BDS advocates seek to leverage economic and political means to achieve their goals of ending the tyranny of Israel in Palestine. At its core, BDS seeks to apply pressure on Israel to change its policies toward the Palestinian people. The movement's objectives are threefold. The first objective is to call for an end to Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories, including the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza Strip, which began in 1967. The second objective is to have equal rights and put an end to discrimination against Palestinian citizens of Israel, who make up approximately 20% of Israel's population. And the last objective is to support the right of Palestinian refugees and their descendants to return to their homes and properties from which they were displaced during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War and subsequent conflicts. To achieve their goals, BDS supporters call for the boycott of Israeli products, cultural and academic institutions, and events perceived to be complicit in the occupation or violation of Palestinian rights. The divestment aspect of BDS involves urging individuals, organizations, and governments to divest from companies that profit from the occupation or engage in human rights violations against Palestinians. Lastly, though BDS primarily focuses on grassroots activism, some proponents advocate for the imposition of sanctions by governments and international bodies against Israel until it complies with international law and respects Palestinian rights. However, despite the noble cause of this movement, it has also received some scrutiny. Critics argue that BDS unfairly targets Israel while ignoring human rights abuses committed by other countries, and that it seeks to delegitimize the state of Israel rather than promote constructive dialogue and peace-building efforts. Additionally, BDS has been accused of fostering divisions and polarization within communities and institutions, particularly in academic and cultural spheres. What do you think about BDS? Do you think it is a legitimate movement against the unfair occupation of Palestine? Or do you think that it is trying to delegitimize Israel? Let us know in the comments section below. The global impact of BDS. Over the last 18 years, the BDS movement has built a massive network worldwide, supported by trade unions, farmers' coalitions, as well as racial, social, gender, and climate justice movements, together representing tens of millions of people. It has had a large impact on isolating apartheid Israel by making large multinational companies like G4S, Veolia, Orange, HP, Puma, Starbucks, McDonald's, and others totally or partially add their complicity in its crimes against indigenous Palestinians. Among them, McDonald's and Starbucks are two of the biggest brands that are being completely shuttered for their support of Israel in the war. In February, Starbucks CEO Laxman Narasimhan told analysts over an earnings call that the world's largest coffee chain was reporting slower sales in the first month of 2024, causing a hit in its share price. "We saw a negative impact on our business in the Middle East," he said, adding that events in the Middle East also had an impact in the U.S., driven by misperceptions about our position. The report came a few days after McDonald's also missed analyst expectations when it reported slower sales across its international licensed division at the end of December 2023. The burger chain similarly attributed the slowdown to a drop in demand in stores in the Middle East and predominantly Muslim countries like Indonesia and Malaysia. Moreover, in March 2024, following pressure from BDS Japan and its allies that evoked the ICJ ruling that Israel is plausibly committing genocide, two major Japanese firms, Nippon Aircraft Supply and Itochu Corporation, ended relations with Israel's largest private arms manufacturer, Elbit Systems. The company is the key enabler of Israel's genocide and has expressed concerns about the impact of BDS campaigns against it despite the increase in its sales of field-tested weapons. Elbit's fear of BDS can be explained by the emerging trend of divestments by large banks and investment funds. On February 12, 2024, the State of Wisconsin Investment Board disclosed that it sold all 8,083 Elbit shares it had owned in November 2023. 2 days later, Bank of America Corp disclosed that it had shed more than 50% of its Elbit shares since November 2023. Even Scotiabank, the single largest foreign investor in Elbit, decreased its holdings of Elbit shares between Q3 and Q4 2023 by approximately 16%. Campaigns to push for total divestment continue. Additionally, the German sportswear company Puma announced in December 2023 that it would not renew its contract with the Israeli Football Association, which expires by the end of 2024, owing to BDS pressure that has cost the company dearly in terms of reputational damage. Furthermore, the French supermarket chain Carrefour was targeted by BDS for its complicity in Israeli crimes. The supermarket brand has shut down 4 branches in Jordan, following an intense campaign led by BDS Jordan. The Jordanian El Amid Coffee Company had also decided to shut down all its branches in Carrefour supermarkets in Jordan due to Carrefour's complicity in the genocide. What's your take on the losses these companies are incurring? Several institutions have also taken a stand against the Israeli apartheid. For instance, the largest and oldest African American church, the African Methodist Episcopal Church, with around 3 million members, has accused Israel of genocide, calling on the U.S. to immediately withdraw funding and other support from Israel to end its complicity. 5 Norwegian universities have suspended collaboration agreements with Israeli universities over Israel's actions. The Law Faculty Council of the University of Antwerp has decided by consensus to halt a cooperation agreement with Bar Ilan University over its unwavering support for Israel's military assault on Gaza. 100 U.S. arts organizations, including publishers, galleries, venues, magazines, bookstores, collectives, festivals, and agencies, have endorsed the cultural boycott of Israel. The West Asia Football Association called for suspending Israel's membership from FIFA, and calls for excluding Israel from the Olympic Games are gaining momentum globally. Finally, the Executive Committee of European Gymnastics has decided that Tel Aviv will no longer host the 2025 European Championships in Artistic Gymnastics. These are just a few examples of the global impact felt by Israel's genocide. Regardless of what you think of the matter, it is quite clear that people are abhorrently against Israel's actions. However, whether boycotting Israeli products is the correct approach or not is still debatable. While some argue it applies pressure to improve human rights and peace, Others worry about its economic and social impacts. What's clear is that finding solutions to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict will require a lot more than this. It needs open dialogue, cooperation, and efforts from all sides for lasting peace and justice. If you resonated with our take on the impact of the Israel boycott, then hit the like, subscribe, and bell icon. We believe that it is high time we put aside our differences and engage in constructive conversations for peace, because people's lives are at stake at the end of the day. So, we must address this conflict with sincerity and compassion.